Saleem, thanks very much for joining us. I realise you must be exhausted. The end of the conference, how are you feeling?
Mostly relieved. It was a big conference, always a chance that something might go wrong. Fortunately, that didn't happen. And people seem to have had a good time, enjoyed it, very good feedback from most of them.
And what for you were the highlights of these few days?
I'd say several things. Firstly, the turnout. We expected under 200 international participants. We got well over 250. There was a rush at the end for people to come and register, which was quite heartening. We got coverage from all over the world, much better participation from Latin America, particularly, which we've been weak on before. Sizable numbers from Africa, and then obviously much bigger numbers from Asia because we're in Asia. But also from the US, Canada. We had a woman present today from Alaska for a community-based adaptation project there, which was quite interesting and unusual for us.
Are there any particular highlights in terms of the presentations given or the methods, techniques talked about? You know, what's come out of it in that sense?
Well, I think one of the things that's certainly come out in a very positive light is that we tried a set of what we called out-of-the-box sessions, which we ran in parallel with the more traditional PowerPoint presentation type sessions. And over the course of the 4 days, I think almost all of the participants went to at least one of them. And the feedback has been very, very positive. The only requirement we had for the people who ran those sessions was they had to be interactive and there were no PowerPoints. But the feedback's been quite good. So we're going to try and build on that in future and try and reduce the number of long PowerPoint presentations which tend to get quite boring, never leave enough time for discussions, and have them more interactive in future. And we have to think of ways of doing that. The experiment worked well this time.
And coming to the content itself, what's changed between CBA 5 and CBA 6? Where is the field developing? Where are you pushing the boundaries and really learning?
I think where we are now is that we are at a position where we can begin to interface and transition from a largely civil society NGO-driven exercise with lots of pilots, lots of learning happening, but still in the hundreds of activities. These, if they're going to be scaled up, can't be scaled up to the millions by NGOs alone. They need governments to do that. The government of Vietnam was actually quite a positive phenomenon in that they hosted this event. It's the first time we've had a government actually host an event. They've been very engaged with us. The relationship wasn't without its difficulties, but it's been learning for both of us, and in the end they've been very happy with the result. So where we are now is we are at a position where we can actually engage with governments effectively with some solid evidence of persuading them that working with vulnerable communities is a good way for them to deliver on their responsibilities to their own citizens, and that we may have some tools and methods and ideas that would be useful for them.
There's been this emphasis on mainstreaming, bringing governments on board. Do you think there's a risk that you're going to disconnect from the communities that you're talking about? A number of people we've interviewed have said that that's a concern.
Well, governments don't necessarily always end up doing the right things, but we can't escape the fact that governments are the ones that have the mandate and the responsibility to protect and support their own citizens. They may not do it very well, and so our responsibility is to try and help them do it better than they have. So our effectiveness is to make things better, not make them ideal.
And do you worry that the conference itself may stray away from community-based adaptation and begin to discuss adaptation more broadly?
I don't think that's necessarily the fear. What will happen and is happening, and I think is a good thing, is that more and more different cohorts of people engage with us. We started off with mainly NGOs. Then we started bringing in academics from the last couple of years, more and more researchers wanting to study what we're doing. A lot of funding agencies, donors who are going to be funding adaptation want to know how do we monitor it. And now the next phase is governments. How can they scale it up into national policies and deliver on them? I think all of these cohorts of people need to be engaged. They bring different perspectives. They want to know different things. So accommodating the different groups and their different needs is a challenge for us. We have to make it useful for everybody. And it's more and more difficult to have a one-size-fits-all strategy.
And you said in your closing remarks that next year you would like a session on failures. What's motivated that?
Well, a couple of people came up to me and said, they're all success stories. Everybody presents a story as something that they've done very well, which they probably have. But I'm sure there have been failures and nobody ever talks about them. So I said, why don't we have a session on failures and ask people to come back and tell us why they failed and what lessons they can draw out. I think it's particularly apt in the field of adaptation, which is a very new area. And we're going to have to try many things, and not all of them are going to work. But the only way we're going to learn is from our mistakes. So we will make mistakes. As long as we're learning from mistakes and not repeating them or hiding them, I think that's a good thing.
And just finally, how do you see the road to the conference next year? What activities are going to come out of CBA 6 and lead the way to CBA 7?
Well, the immediate outputs from here are your videos, recordings. We've done a lot of them. We've got a lot of blogs coming out of here. We are going to do a proceedings of the conference, so that will be available for people. In terms of setting the scene for next year, we've already started engaging. We seeded a number of government officials in this meeting that we invited. We've met with them to seek their advice and help to ensure we have a bigger engagement with governments next year, and we're hoping that that will happen. So we'll be working with participants from this event and previous events to try and identify the right kind of people that we can bring from governments for the next event. So there's a lot of work to be done between now and then.
Saleem, thank you for speaking with us.